Hey, Anna.
What's going on?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for today. I'm so excited to be here.
I feel like this conversation about doing this has been in the works for a while. And now we're actually doing it, which feels amazing. This is the Come Sit With Us podcast that Nicole St. John and I have partnered together and collaborated together to do. For those of you who are new to my world, hello, my name is Anna Ennis. I have the opportunity to coach. I also do in the personal development realm. I've been known as like the accountability coach or as the person who helps to get shit done. I also have courses. I have workshops, I have master classes, all kinds of digital content. And gosh, who knows what else is to come in the future. I'm going with this. This has been a really fun experience. And yeah, this is it.
Okay, so I'm Nicole St. John. I am a hypnotherapist and coach. I have one-to-one clients. I offer like one-off sessions for really fun stuff like spiritual awakening, meeting your inner goddess. I have master classes. I also have hypnotherapy audios. And those are like my thing that I've been doing most recently. I'm so excited about them. And I'm also a registered nurse and a homeschooling mom.
Yowzer. That list was long. I feel like I missed a few things now that I hear. I'm like, holy guacamole. Ah.
It's a lot.
All right, you guys. So the cool part of Nicole and I's relationship is though we are very different humans, but yet we share some really common characteristics, and you'll get to learn more about us on this podcast. Her and I have a really funny sense of humor. So prepare yourself. There will be days where we're very polished, very few days. And then there will be days where we just show up raw and real because this is the outlet that we've chosen to get to know people on that level. And Nicole and I had this conversation a while back, how we love talking, dude. We started off with the Marco Polo thing, and some of the stuff that's on there is hilarious.
It's gold. I really feel like we could just make a whole podcast of you just listening to those conversations and being like, what is going on with these ladies?
What's happening? So in order to give you a little glimpse into our lives, we decided this podcast would be a really cool way to do that. And we were having this conversation about what we wanted this podcast to be like. So I'm going to let Nicole kind of start off and talk about why we came up with the name of it and what we hope to embody throughout this whole process.
Okay. So in the conversation, it was a lot of, what do we want this to look like? What kind of a podcast do we want to have? And really, we want it to be a place where, yes, it's like geared mostly towards women, but we are all inclusive. And we want everybody who comes here to feel like you can come sit with us, like come sit with us at our table and be included in the conversation and feel like you have a seat there and a voice. And we want it to be a place where you feel that you are lifted up and that you feel like you're not alone, Like you can come here and you can hear us talk about what it's like to build a business and not be able to stay in the vibe because you're dealing with laundry. Like, how do you do that? So, we want you to be able to feel like you're hearing your story in our story and that you're always welcome to come sit at our table with us. This is like an all-inclusive, all-welcoming space. And we're just really excited to have the opportunity to have these conversations that we're going to have and for you guys to be a part of them.
And I'm excited. Maybe not Nicole's not as excited, but I've embodied my life as someone who has an eclectic group of people around them. And I know Nicole loves conversation about all different types of topics. And so we hope that this podcast will bring that out also. You'll get excited because you'll see someone that maybe you relate to, and you may see someone that triggers you. And so the cool part of that as a learning experience is it helps us to like reveal some of the things or maybe the areas in which we need to do work, or it helps to bring out the best in us, the part of us that is empowered and excited. So there'll be all parts of you when you hear the conversations on here, not only with us, but with the guests that we bring on that are going to arise certain things in you, right? Like,
I can't wait. I'm really excited for all of the conversations. And I had a thought and I lost it. I'm going to blame that on my ADHD. It's like, hi, this is real. Like, it's really real. Like, I really have.
Oh, yeah. We forgot. We have to mention that Nicole has ADHD.
Yes.
This is going to be awesome. I love it. So when Nicole, we were chatting back and forth with the name, the Come Sit With Me thing, I totally am like a Mean Girls fan, the movie. And so I was like, you know what? Like we need the opposite of that. We need this place. And even in the picture on our front page here and on our Instagram account, you'll see there's this beautiful, big, huge chair in the middle. And then there's like Nicole and I on the sides. And we want that to like feed out to the world or replicate or to like show the world like the seat that you're sitting in is more important than the seats that we're sitting in. And the things that you have to say are way more awesome. So we will have some really cool guests on the show. And that's the hot seat. That's where you get to sit.
Yeah. Yes.
This kind of goes into the name, Nicole. We were talking today, Nicole and I were having this conversation about competition.
Oh yeah.
And
that's a hot topic here.
Topic and women rising together. Like, can we chat about that today? Can we open this up, like this conversation?
Yeah. Like you can see it anywhere if you look for it. Right. But I think that we have this really great seat of being coaches and dealing with a lot of women and being in groups and seeing this in the groups that we're in, the triggering, the half-assed cheering for each other where it's like, oh yeah, congratulations. I really hate how she does that. Like, I don't think, so you may not see it necessarily in another area if that doesn't resonate with you. But I know that as a nurse, I see it. I know that, I see it in my nursing job that women cut each other down and it becomes gossipy. And I mean, like, that's kind of the stereotypical thing, right? Like, oh yeah, if you work with a lot of women, it's really catty and it's like a negative thing when really it could totally be this really amazing, uplifting, sis, let me help you. And I say sis because I am the oldest of 6 girls and I have 2 daughters and everybody is sis. Hey, sister. Yeah, it's a sisterhood, and we can rise together and I can be struggling in my business and be ecstatic that Anna is like getting new clients and that she is killing it. And I am. It's a genuinely like, oh my God, I'm so excited for you. Let me shout it to the rooftops. Today, I posted on my, in a group that I have on Facebook, I posted about a coach that I worked with who was my coach getting her business. We were in like a coaching school together and she started her business. I posted it. I'm so excited for her. She does something similar to what I do. Like, I cannot wait for her to feel the success that she wants to feel because I know it's coming for her. So, yeah.
I know in my life too, we were talking about this earlier, that competition has come up mostly just with myself, my own competitive self. I haven't necessarily struggled in an unhealthy way with competition, like in the world, like throughout me, but I definitely have had it as part of my life. Like, I have some really great friendships in my life. I have some really great women around me, but I've noticed because of my personality type, for those of you who do the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 3, which is like the achiever, the go-getter, like the person who's like striving, which in one case or another, like that seems on the outside really cool, but it's also really hard. It's keeping that balance, right? I'm also a projector like Nicole. So talking nonstop. I have ideas nonstop. So at points of my life, I have recognized that can be seen as like almost like a jealousy thing. And for me, I look at women and I'm like, wait, what? No, like I struggle with it. This is not like a good thing, right? Like when you're constantly competitive with yourself or you're constantly wanting to achieve for worthiness or enoughness, right? Like, yes, I've achieved some crazy stuff in my life that others would look at and think, oh, but it's been with struggle, right? And so I've definitely felt that competition on the exterior that I've had to learn how to deal with. And it wasn't until I learned like, oh, what is this word trigger? Like I remember about 5 years ago when I was at a workshop and someone said, that's called a trigger. Like when someone, and I'm like, what? Tell me more. Like, what does this mean? I never heard of this in my life. What is this? So even now I'm very aware of myself being like frazzed, or when another woman around me is making $1 million and I'm like, that's my goal. I'm very aware of like what comes up for me. And I'm like, ooh, is that me or is that her? Or that's definitely me. Right. And so when it comes to competition, I think it comes in different forms. Like
it does. I think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said something about being in competition with yourself, but for worthiness, like
Yeah.
think that it's okay to be in competition with yourself. Like that's the only person I'm in competition with is myself. I don't want to be in competition with my neighbor, my friend, this other person who does what I do. I feel like there is so enough business out there for all of us. There is enough accolades out there for all of us. And I feel like we should all just want each other to succeed. But yes, being in competition with myself is a thing. Like I want to be better today than I was yesterday. And I want tomorrow to be better than today. And, we both listen to this wonderful woman. Her name is Melanie Ann Layer, and she says it should be growth and evolution over a lifetime. And I 100% back that. We should be, getting better, like just as human beings. We should just be getting better, like showing up as your best self. And sometimes that means loving yourself where you are and realizing that the worthiness is bullshit. I'm going to say it. You don't have to be worthy.
You don't. So Nicole, okay. So this comes up too on social media where I get in these funks, especially around the time when I'm freaking hormonal and I should not be scrolling. I should be like, no, turn it off. Like that's really the only time. There's a few days out of the month where I'm like competitive with other people, where I look at it in an unhealthy way and I see her that she just bought a G-Wagon and I'm like, what? I had no idea. Like, that is crazy. I need to be doing that. I should be. It's almost like this, like, I got to go into this masculine energy, like produce, like, in an unhealthy way. But how in your life has social media almost revved this competition engine up?
Okay. So it kind of started a little over a year ago in May of last year. I watched this masterclass called Invested from Melanie Ann Layer. And in it, she was talking and I couldn't get enough. Like I could not get enough. And there were similar stories with her, like she was homeless 7 years ago and now she's a multimillionaire. And I'm like, well, I was homeless. It was more than 7 years ago, but that's a whole nother podcast, but I could do this. Like I could do this, you know what I mean? And so it became this, wait a second, I can show up this way and I could do this. If she can do it, I can do it. And then whenever I wasn't seeing the traction, I was like, wait, what am I doing wrong? Like, what did she do that I'm not doing? And it's not that I'm not happy for her. It's that what do I need to do to be better? Because it became like this imposter syndrome. It became self-doubt. It became this really negative self-talk is what that did for me. The social media portion. It's not necessarily a competitive piece with other people. It's really, I guess it kind of is, but it isn't. Does that make sense? Like I'm seeing how good they're doing and wondering why am I doing it wrong? I must be doing it wrong because I'm not getting the same results. So yeah. And then the other triggering piece for me is when I feel like people are not in integrity with their offers, with what they're doing. And then I realized it's really not my business. I'm going to just go ahead and stay in my lane and I'm not going to worry about what other people are doing. Right. We had this conversation about just stay in our lane. And the idea came to mind of whenever you see people running and they're in a race. And while I don't feel the need to race, but like I want to be on my own trajectory and not worried about what someone else is doing. Cause that's when you trip, you fall, you start messing up, you lag behind, whatever. I just want to like stay focused on my end goal because my end goal is not the same as yours. And it may take you twice as long to get to yours because it's on a totally different path. Mine's on a different path to where I want to be. And if you ended up in mine, it probably would not make you happy or fulfilled. So you stay in yours, I'm going to stay in mine, and we're going to go ahead and like celebrate each other as we go.
I love that. And I loved what you talked about yesterday, like on your page, your Empowered Vibes page about like distraction. And when you're heavily distracted, because I feel the same for myself, when I'm not following through with the things that fill me up, like meditation, like walking, working out, prayer, like reading the Bible, like all that stuff, right? For myself, every single morning before I get my day started, I feel like empty, right? And then I start doing things like Nicole was talking about on our podcast. She's like, when I start watching tons of Netflix, like that's a sign of avoidance. Like that's a sign that I'm not in my lane. That's a sign that I'm looking around. I want a distraction and like, I can't actually get rest and relief. So like, I just want to tune out.
Yeah. Like I just check out. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's crazy is when I listened to you say that yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, we've talked about this a lot before, or both of our work, but a lot of the world is tuned out. Yeah. A lot of the world doesn't necessarily feel the things that they're truly feeling, right? And not only that, so when we're not really feeling what we should be feeling, we're not allowing feeling to happen or emotion, we start looking outside more because we want that gratification. We want that hit, right? That
dopamine,
feeling.
yeah. I want that little dopamine fix to make me feel better in this moment. So, so often it's in the form of, let me grab a drink. I'm going to go pour myself a drink. And I'm not knocking anybody who drinks. I'm just saying,
or I'm going to smoke pot. Or I'm going to smoke pot.
Or, I'm going to grab some extra. I'm going to go eat the half of the cheesecake. You know what I mean? I'm going to eat my feelings because I don't want to feel them. So I'm going to give myself something. And sometimes it's in other forms. I've seen people do this with working out, where it becomes a heavy addiction, because that's the only way that they can make themselves feel better. And while it may sound like it's really healthy because, hey, they're working out, the reason behind it is it's a little concerning because they're choosing not to deal with something, right? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's
totally.
I don't want to feel the emotions. So I'm going to mask it with whatever I can that makes me feel better, instead of sitting there and saying, you know what, guess what? If I don't stuff these emotions, then they're not going to keep creeping back up for me to have to deal with later. I can just feel them now, take the lid off the pot and let that shit boil over.
Yes.
Just let it boil over, let all the steam release, feel the feeling, say, oh, okay, now I know where I'm at. I know that I've got to deal with something. What can I do now to put my best foot forward and to address these things and kind of love myself where I am and allow it, versus trying to just put a Band-Aid on it, like a constant Band-Aid that then peels off and then you got to put it back on because you don't want to deal with any of your shit.
Yeah, there's like a Band-Aid, or there's a couple different routes. There's either Band-Aid or avoidance. So yes. The Band-Aid is like, let's just quick fix. I need to just feel better in this moment. And then the avoidance spouts off. I can share from my own personal experience that when I avoided my feelings and emotions, it led to depression, panic attacks, stress, anxiety, to where I couldn't actually physically drive to work because I was so, and I had so many things. And I was having this conversation earlier today with a client that the expectations for women have changed dramatically, right? And my mom reminds me of this all the time. When I come to her and I'm like, my house is a mess. This is going wrong. I'm a horrible parent, all this stuff. My business is this. And my mom's like, whoa, simmer down, sister. She's like, when I raised you, the expectations for women were totally different than the expectations that you have now on yourself. And you're putting too much in here. The body can only handle so much, right? And when you fill your plate with a million things, it allows you to avoid true feeling and true connection with yourself. There's somebody listening to this who can relate to this, that spending time in quiet by yourself sometimes feels damn near impossible.
No, it's a have to. I have to have it.
Me too.
If I don't, I'm not okay. My husband is the opposite. He does not get it. He thinks I feel like he lightweight thinks it's selfish. And I'm like, no, this is how I function. If you want me to function in this house and be a halfway decent person, I need my time to myself. That's how I fill my cup. I'm
the same way.
I'm figuring out why though. I love that it's part of the projector thing. There's kind of a reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody on here with human design that can explain all this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love the human design. Yeah, me too. I love all of them. I've done all the little personality things. I find so much, not that I follow it strictly by a book, but it gives me guidance when I'm off track. So when I'm spiraling out of control, I'm like, oh, that's right. Because I need to get back to my meditation, or I need to get back to a place of center. So I use all those as guides. I freaking love
feel like
them.
It's just another tool for your toolkit, right?
Yeah.
I know in nursing, I want to know all of the different ways. What are all the ways I can approach this issue? Because I want to make sure that if I don't have this and this isn't working, then I need this. There's different forms, whether it's a different medication, a different treatment, you want to know all the ways, right? And, let's be honest, in nursing, you're never going to know all of the ways because everything changes all the time. And that's fine. But with personal development and me feeling better, and me being able to pull myself out of that funk, because it happens a lot. And I mean, Anna, you are well aware of my highs and lows, and, it's been a real problem. It's really been difficult to maneuver, especially with the ADHD, with already having executive dysfunction issues and not taking care of myself because it just doesn't register the right way. And then adding in the depression or the anxiety and then the negative self-talk, it's this whole snowball effect. And so being able to recognize, take a pause and say, what is going on with me right now? Let's just stop and have a conversation with myself and say, what the hell is going on? Is this a hormone thing right now?
Yeah.
Where are we at? Is this a situational issue? Is this me not caring for myself. Let me ask somebody, if I can't answer that question, let me ask my girlfriend, Anna, tell her, this is what I'm going through, dude. I need your thoughts. Because that's how I work. I talk it out. And getting the real answer of, yeah, like, I'm not really taking care of yourself. No, actually, I'm not. I haven't been doing my meditation. I haven't been doing any journaling. I'm not listening to my hypnotherapy stuff. I'm not taking the quiet time for myself. I'm not doing the things that I love. I'm not nourishing my body. So no, I'm not showing up for myself the way I should. And it just spirals. So I really feel like having all of those different methods, whether it's your Bible reading or, scripture study or going out with friends for lunch, because that's how you function better and that fills your cup, whatever it is, realizing what those things are for you so that you can pull this out. And you know what, that's not it right there either, but this is going to add to all of it. Whenever I take care of me, then I can get to the actual root of the problem. If I'm not taking care of me, then who knows what the issue is.
The other thing too, Nicole, that I've noticed where we both have grown significantly, and I see the women in my world growing significantly, is that even though you could be doing all the work, okay, and you feel great or right or whatever, but like life happens and shitty stuff happens in your life. And it's like holding that duality of like really good and really bad in the same day, same moment, same minute, and knowing that you can have both and still show up for yourself. So like, for instance, Nicole and I were talking as we were recording this, before recording this podcast, it's Monday when we're recording this on a Monday, and we both had that freaking Monday crap happen to us, and we're like, so of course we vented out the stuff that we had going on in our lives. And then we're like, okay, now let's get to the good stuff. Like, let's get to our why we're doing this, like why we're showing up, why we're doing this podcast. And so when your why overwhelms your whole entire life, it makes that really hard thing or that duality easy to sit with for a minute, but also to say, okay, this happened. It sucks. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm mad. I'm sad. And I'm going to sit with that for a minute, but I can also show up over here in a really like high vibe, high light way, because like I am driven to create change in women's lives. I'm driven to like make an impact in another woman's life. So I just thought that would be fun to talk about too, is just managing the duality of life. Like there's so much going on in our lives.
Yeah. I think that we both saw this, for those of you who don't know and who are new to Anna and myself. Anna helped me launch a beautiful series of hypnotherapy audios, and she did all of the branding for it. And she pieced together all of the components, all of the moving parts. And we had this beautiful photo shoot, and the branding was gorgeous. And I was super excited for this project because I'd want to do it for 2 years. And in less than 3 weeks, we hammered it out. And within that 3 weeks, one of my best, closest friends died, and it was unexpected and it was horrible. And I was sitting there holding the duality of absolute heartbreak and devastation with overwhelming joy and excitement for myself in what Anna had helped me create. And the fact that I got this thing done in 3 weeks that I've been wanting to do for over 2 years, and it turned out beautifully. I mean, better than my expectations. It just exceeded it. And while I did hold that duality for the time of that, like it was really hard. And, it took its toll after a while, but, you still have to process, you got to process the stuff. But I was able to sit there and hold those two things. And it was really hard, but it was like, I get to be excited for something I just created. It's okay for me to be happy about this while being devastated about this.
When we're starting the healing process, I noticed in my own journey, when I had something really bad happen or sad or frustrating, I held on to it. Like I hold on to stuff, guys, like crazy. So I've noticed my own self that when something bad happens or something that unexpected, I'm able to go with the flow a little bit more, but I'm also able to turn the switch faster. I landed in a state of depression severely like 8 years ago. And then I, kind of started getting out of it. But then I started noticing that even though the side effects and the healing was happening, I was still not showing up in my true power. Like I was still holding on to like anger or holding on to frustration or a grudge. Right. And so when I started uncovering some of the work to work through this, it's been mind-blowingly awesome, because now I know what it feels like to feel the sadness, the frustration, or the anger, but I also know that I have the tools now to work through that at a quicker space. I remember like about 6-8 months ago, I heard this term of like collapsing time. I'm starting to understand that a lot more now, that when the work gets done, the healing work gets done, you're like, whoa, you look down at your watch and you're like, oh my gosh, is this already over? I already finished. Wow, that went by so fast. We all have these moments in our life where time goes faster, right? And like, that's the collapse. When you get to a certain learning curve and a certain point of your journey, like I'm going to give you a practical example. Okay. For like 5 years, I wanted to create a digital course. And yet there was all this stuff in my head that was like, I was working through. And then one day, I created my first course, and it took me 6 months to create that first course. Okay. And now I'm to the point where I can create a course in like a week and have it fully done. It's not about, oh my God, she's so fast and efficient. It's not that. It's that it took me 5 years to get to that point where I could collapse the time into 1 week. So
yeah, this wasn't like an overnight thing.
No,
yeah.
God, no.
I think sometimes that's what we see though, right? Like we see this success and we think it's like this overnight thing. And especially in the coaching world, I feel like very often it's made to seem like it was this overnight thing. Like,
no.
Because it's just growing so exponentially. I think back to the triggering, I think it can be very easy to get triggered with things. If you are in a different mindset, I think it's really dependent on you and how you show up. And you say that term, but like, I think you know what I mean? Like as far as mindset that you choose to have and being able to work through the things that you mentioned. I know that hypnotherapy helped me with working through a lot of those things. I worked through the self-doubt, through my confidence issues. I remember sitting there and my hypnotherapist asking me, okay, so what is it that you want to feel? And I was like, I feel like nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Like everybody just wants me to shut up. I talk too much. I'm not cute. I'm annoying. I'm like all of these things, just things. And she was like, okay, so what is it that you want? And I was like, I want to feel like, and it was just the opposite of all of those things, that people do want to hear what I have to say. And that I want to let go of this resentment that I have in this situation. I want to let go of holding on to this trauma, to this stuff, all of the shit, to the bad, negative feelings. Like I just want to let go of all of it. And I just want to feel better. And it was through hypnosis that I was able to do that. And that was one tool. There's some people use breath work. That's another beautiful thing. Meditation, prayer, all of the different physical activity, whatever. But like, that was what worked for me. And it was like that. I mean, in one session, I changed a lot of things that day. It like changed my life. So having the right tools are really important. And the right tool for you may be a different right tool than the one that's right for me. And that's okay.
I want to have this conversation about, or like open it up, or maybe conclude with this. You can decide. But how do we create the culture in our own lives for come sit at the table or come sit with us? And what I mean by that is we're starting with ourselves first. How do we create that culture of like, come sit with me or come sit with us, like internally? And then how do we create that in like our friend group or the people that are around us? Like, what do you think?
I really think that it starts with valuing human connection. I mean, you hear all the time, God, I hate people. Like it's like a thing now. People say it all the time.
Especially on social media.
It's all over social media, right? And I've joked like that before, but I'm like, no, I really love it. Like, it's literally the reason I'm still a nurse. Trust me, it's not for all the icky stuff that we have to do. Okay. It's for the human connection of being able to have a conversation and get to know somebody on a level that I wouldn't even have met this person before. That's why I love what I do. I love the healing and human connection that happens with my hypnotherapy and coaching clients. It's getting to kind of hold someone's proverbial hand through really hard times in their life and caring about just being there and present for them through their hard times. And you get to celebrate them whenever they come out the other side of it, because they do come out the other side of it, So yeah, I think I think that's how you cultivate it, is about genuinely caring about human connection and loving yourself enough to put you first in your day. When I say that, like, I needed to put myself first yesterday with the shitty day I was having in my house, and I had to go to work, and I left for work 2 hours early because I needed the time for myself, because I had started my day momming and wifing and breakfast and stuff and I needed to go do my meditation. I didn't get that done. And so I had to leave for work early because I needed to take the time for myself. And I left 2 hours early. I didn't care what anybody was doing in my house. So being able to take that time for you that you need to fill your cup so that you can then pour it over into like other people. and you can show up genuinely, authentically, and really very present in your conversations with people.
I love that you brought that up about self, because when I think of come sit with me, I think of, I'm talking to like her, I'm talking to like the person in me. Like, when was the last time that I just sat with me? And am I comfortable just sitting with me? If I'm not comfortable in my own skin, how can I ever expect to go sit with anybody else? I know for myself, I've had to do, and I've wanted to do the work to get to know myself more, because the relationships in my life, by me getting to know myself more, the relationships in my life are so much richer than they ever were before. And let me give you a practical example of this. I'm a very practical person, so just let me give you this, okay? About 5 years ago, it was very important for my ego and very important for my self-righteousness that I had a million friends around me, that I went to every single social event, that I proved through achievement that I was the badass bitch, right?
Yeah.
And then I hit a point, a very like sacred, cool healing point where right after COVID, actually last year, where I had this moment where I was like, you know what? I don't need all that. I want to get to know her. Like, I want to get to know what's inside me before I even go back out into the world. And so I spent a good 6 months of time, and most recently, actually, even to this day right now, where I really check in with myself very, very often. And the cool part of checking in with yourself is that you recognize your boundaries and you recognize what you stand for, what you don't stand for. Maybe it was because I turned 40. I don't know. A switch went off. And like all of a sudden, all of the people and the ego stuff and the self-righteous stuff that I had done before was like, there was this hard resistance, like this resistance that I was not used to because I'd lived 40 years of my life like that. So when it came upon me, I did not know how to react. I was like, whoa, what is this? What is happening? Lots of crying, lots of anger, lots of frustration, lots of journaling, meditation, lots of inner work that I did on myself. But the cool part of it, as I sit here today, is that I love being super social. That's like my favorite thing. Okay. But I also love just hanging out with myself. So I think coming and sitting at the table with yourself is definitely, in my mind, like the place to start before any other table.
Well, and let's not negate your 90-day trip that you take with yourself. I love this idea. I think it is beautiful. I think every woman, every person should do this. I really think every person out there should do this. Can you speak to it?
Yeah, totally. So I've been doing this for 4+ years now. So I'll tell you about it and then I'll tell you where it was driven from. So every 90 days, I have a trip with myself. It used to be with a girlfriend and we used to do it together. And then I was finally to the point where I was like, no, I need it for me. So I go away to a beautiful spot. And it's like a date for myself. So I treat myself to the best food, the nicest hotel that I would never book, the best champagne. Like I take myself to the beach, like whatever it is, whatever area I'm in, like I'm fully present and I let it all come out. So that's the time also where I do this procedure, right? Where I reflect on the past 90 days and a lot of emotion comes out, either happy, sad, frustrated, whatever it is. And then that's the first day. And then the second day I spend creating newness, like creating and dreaming and getting excited. And then the third day is where I plant myself down and I commit to what I'm going to do for myself in the next 90 days. In the very beginning trips, it was very ego-based. It was all about what am I going to achieve? What benchmark am I going to hit? What best-selling book am I going to publish? Whatever it was, right? And now it's the point where I do look into that stuff, but it's really just checking in with myself and spiritually, with God, I really connect hardcore. I use it as a time of to grow my faith even more and just to have quiet reflection. And I still do all that fun, fancy stuff, but I've really internalized it a lot more, which in turn, when I get back, I feel full and I am ready to go. And I kind of open my heart to whatever's going to happen for that next little chunk. So
here's a question. As a married person, I know that my husband would probably be really, you want to go on a vacation without me? We don't even take vacations together at this point. What are you talking about? We need a vacation. So how do you get your husband on board with that? How did you approach this topic where you were this is a non-negotiable, I'm doing this, without it coming across as tough shit, dude? Well, everybody's going to respond well to that. No.
This is such a true point. Okay. So it was an evolution. So the first point that I started kind of doing it, not consistently, but doing it was right after we had kids. And I was like frazzed. Childbearing years were the hardest beginning years of my life. Like I can't even describe to you the shenanigans in my mind. So I had told him, like, I just need a few hours. Like I need 6 hours by myself, and I'm going to go take a drive to the mountains, and I'm going to have some time at Pinecrest, or I'm going to have some time. So it kind of started there, and then it evolved into like a 12 hours, then an overnight, and then it was like a couple days, right? So it's been over time over the past 10 years. It just didn't show up. It was just something that started evolving. And then the cool thing my husband was on board for is because I came back and I was like happier. And like, let's be honest, guys are driven by sex. Like I was more excited to like have sex, or more excited to be affectionate, because I was like, had my time, right? Like I had my moment. So for him, he was like all about it. He's like, yeah, even now to this day,
isn't it time for your trip? It's been a while.
Yeah, seriously. Even to this day, he's like, he can tell I missed my last time doing this because some life circumstance happened, but he'll bring up to me like, oh, you haven't really done your trip for yourself. And I'm like, oh, he just did that this last time. And I'm like, oh, you're right. That's why I feel so out of whack. Like, oh, yeah. So it was a progression. It
planning a trip.
Like,
yes.
Yeah. It was like I had to like slowly work on this. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, no, not overnight. I have an amazing husband, but I can't imagine if just right out of the gate, I was like, yeah, going for 3 days. Bye. Yeah. I think he would be a little weirded out.
Yeah. I mentioned it to my husband. I'm like, my friend Anna, she does this thing. It sounds super awesome. I think even if I just go for an overnight, I need to fill my cup. So he was like, yeah, that sounds great. But like, I haven't actually scheduled it, but I think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to go. I am.
Do it. Yeah. Let's try for like 12 hours, 10 hours. It's just as good.
Yeah.
Today was good. Today
it really was
so good.
Yes, this was a great conversation. Thank you guys so much for coming and sitting with us and engaging this conversation with us. If you'd like to engage further, we will post our Instagram page in the description, and you guys can come check us out there. And
we interact. That's the place where we interact a lot. So if anything that we've talked about today, you're like, oh, I want to in on that conversation, go to our Instagram, because that's where the content drops for what we've talked about, and some fun tools, some stuff that we have going on with the podcast. Like that's where you're going to find it. So come interact with us. Come hang out with us.
All right. See you guys later.
Adios, amigos.